The mic. Okay, there goes the meter. All right, so I think I'm good now. Ah, man, what a pain in the butt. Okay. And then this can come out here. And, oh, man. I don't know if I want to do it this way, but I guess I could. So now Jay needs the invite link. So we send them.
So EOS is open source software anyone can use to deploy a high performance blockchain or smart contract platform designed to scale to hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of transactions per second with extremely low latency. This is designed to make it so that people want to build applications to make them fast, easy to use, and almost indistinguishable from their centralized competitors. Because I don't believe that decentralized technologies will take off until they can compete. They have to be better in every way than the centralized alternatives. Because decentralization isn't a feature that most people care about. They care about the value that it provides. So up until now, there's no blockchain platform that is actually capable of delivering the required performance, and we're trying to change that with EOSIO. The single-threaded nature of all blockchains prior to EOS really limits the potential throughput. So if you want to process more than 10,000 transactions per second in a sustainable manner, you need multiple CPU cores, and that requires an architecture designed to support that. So that's the primary thing we're doing. The other thing we're doing different from everything else is we're building in decentralized governance, constitution. that really attempts to solve the problems of the advocacy that we see in these other protocols. We attempt to maximize decentralization, whereas Ethereum is controlled by 2 mining pools and Bitcoin is controlled by 4 mining pools, where control is defined by 59% of the block production. Proof of work is really delegated proof of work. So we say we have 21 mining pools, and each pool is elected by stakeholders, of which there are thousands. Ours are distribution strategy is to maximize the number of people around the world and have as fair distribution as possible, so that have decentralized control. So miners elect mining pools.
Now I'm in. Hi, Doug. Uh-oh. Let's see. Why am I not hearing myself?
Good question. I need to whoa.
I think I'm in now.
You need to unmute yourself. You come in muted normally.
Oh, did I? Oh, yeah. Let me. I'll have to. I'll leave and then come back.
Oh, no. You're fine. No.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
You're fine. Can you hear me?
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but can you hear me?
Yeah, your mic. I know you. I know it's a big problem. You need to get a new mic, but can you hit your volume up just one click
Sure.
or two?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on now. Okay, then let me just close that. My computer is. I tried switching to Chrome browser because that's what this is.
You know, I could try and put my headphones on and see if I could hear. I just can't hear you well enough. See if I can hear you better through my own headset.
I have to restart, dude.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh. So, Doug, now I can't hear you at all. Testing 1, 2, 3.
I can hear you, Jay. I hear you fine. My friend just called me on the phone right now. He's trying to talk to me, and I'm trying to explain to him I'm in the middle of a live stream. So you can join us, or I need to get off with you, Bernie.
Okay, fine.
All right, yeah. All right. So can you hear me or not?
Yeah, it's low volume, but I can
How's
hear
this?
you. I can hear
Is
you.
that better? Is that better? Is that better?
Yeah.
Better.
Oh yeah,
better,
that's good right there.
I just need to know. I have to have the feedback. I can't tell what you're hearing or not hearing. So volume is no problem, but the big problem is when I want to play videos, I have to fiddle with the volumes, the source device, and for some reason, let me see. I was trying to use Chrome. That's why it didn't work. Yeah. See, Firefox detects the drivers differently than Chrome does. So Chrome, even though StreamYard is made to be run under Chrome, it works better in Firefox. It's more stable in Firefox.
So my voice sounds good to you right now?
Perfectly fine.
And so compared to this morning, you had a lot of fuzzy feedback this morning. It was hard to understand your voice, but you sound great right now.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Yeah, so look, see, we're back live here. See, that's us. Watch. John Malkovich. See.
Strange. Yeah. I'm on a cell. You know what? This time I am just on a cell phone. I should have probably hooked up a laptop, but
What does it matter?
yeah, it's working. So
well, we need to test out both infrastructure. Oh, hold on. Let me remind you. Where is it? I've made so many of them now. I can't even find it. I need to start deleting them okay. So basically I have this whole thing about subliminally programming people's minds by repeating. It's sort of like MK Ultra kind of stuff, like psychic driving. I don't know if you and Cameron or Go Bulls. That's good. But anyways, where is that one I wrote? Here you go. Welcome to the EOSIO 1.0 anniversary party, courtesy of WhatsApp. This performance is for testing development and mind unlimiting purposes. Please enjoy yourself and expect everything you desire. See, doesn't that set the mood for a party right there?
It does. It really does. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, granted, I'm biased because I'm very interested in your projects and the partnership together idea that we have going on, and all things EOS and all things Eden and all things Fractally. Yes, I'm a biased audience, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun conversations. Just the serendipity that happens between the friends is really fun to watch. And so there's a lot of really powerful things happening. And I think it's going to be obvious to everyone over time. But what's kind of funny, Doug, is like, why don't we just jump in? And by the way, I'm going to spring a big, huge ask on you in about 5 minutes. But I want, before I give you the big ask.
Oh no, you're going to do this live?
We're going to do it live.
Oh my gosh. Okay, it's cool. I just want to get this full screen. I don't know why I can't get this full screen.
Yeah, I thought it was on my end.
No, there's a way, and I did it. I think I had to. Okay, it doesn't go over. Did I do something here? That's not that. No. So it's actually, another thing is I just rebooted. It's running a lot snappier. I think like over time you get like memory leaks and the computer starts losing available RAM or something. Okay, this is driving me nuts. Let's do this. Let's close it and reopen it. But see, the problem is I want to change the I'll just leave it at whatever it's set at. See, this is just the M though. There's some shortcuts. Oh wait, you can't even see what I'm looking at. What am I doing? I'm sorry.
Well, do you want to just yeah, because I don't know what the screencast is picking up.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I forgot to configure it. I was negligent.
Here we go.
I was just gonna put some music on and then use that, and then because I like to get some fractal stuff going on while we're talking.
Yeah. Where did you get just the screenshots of the really cool fractal artwork?
This is called Project M,
Okay.
and it originated from something called Milk Drop that came from Winamp. So this goes back to the 90s. See, I'm old school. Like I would use computers from like 5.25-inch floppies to 3.5-inch. I installed my first 20 megabyte hard drive. I installed my first color graphics adapter, Hercules color graphics adapter. I had a VIC 20. We used to record on the cassette tapes.
Yeah.
You ever seen those? Yeah. And so I've been around, and then, I went through the whole bulletin board thing and Prodigy and AOL, Slip PPP, TCP connections, and then the internet. And in the late 90s, I actually got a job at this computer store, and I got really good with hardware. And in fact, I called my old company that I worked for because I wanted to get back in touch with the boss about block production. There you go. I figured it out. You just got to right click it. So anyways, we used to do super, super high end customization, probably the highest level of customization in the world. And the reason I know that is because one of our primary clients at that time was a company called Teradyne. And Teradyne manufactures test circuit board equipment. So basically any kind of printed circuit board that you get like inside a computer or monitor or cell phone or whatever, if it's green, it's got electronic circuitry on it, that's a PCB. And so Teradyne manufactured the large majority of the equipment that's used to test printed circuit boards. So these devices are very sensitive to electrical charges and noise. And when you drive the units, you have to connect them to a regular computer running Windows. But the computers that are running Windows are not exactly the same in configuration and setup. Every little nuance, even the BIOS setting to the BIOS version, to like what type of memory chip, to like what slot you put everything in, and it was just bonkers. Like what degree of customization I had to learn. So when I learned that part of this whole thing is about block production's high-end hardware, I'm like, well, dude, I used to really be into high-end hardware back in the day. That's why I was really interested in getting with IPI node and block production with Michael in relation to the Fractally in Orbit team, because I'm also having a energy consulting. I'm not an expert, but I've worked with enough people when I was in Alaska to where I know that most of the basic lingos or the value of how utilities and cost per watt, and if it's renewable truly or not, and the importance of like local economies and yada yada. So excuse me, I don't know, I'm just sort of rambling.
Yeah, no, I think so, Doug. I think your intuition is really correct there. It seems like if we want to participate in building out a new global network of computers that run through node systems and use block producer validation technologies, it's going to take globally distributed networks of pretty high powered machines running that system. And so especially with the evolution, it looks like there's, like I say, every other week there's a $620 million loss here, another one there. And so I think this new Web3 world is going to be looking for chains that have trusted professional hardware operators that have accountability to the network and to the end users, and can do what they say they're going to do, and have a back, like bonding, insurance company, stop loss gaps, and whatever else. So and I think that by necessity we have to be part of that. So I think that's I think that I'm very excited to be learning how to run a node and to serve as a BP in the upcoming chain evolutions.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Can you see those visualizers?
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, it's on a cell phone, but it looks pretty cool.
So I'll tell you what, man. I forgot about Project M I remember at the last minute. And the thing that makes me so happy is it was natively available in the Ubuntu repository. So I could just go to where you normally install all the software and the GUI thing and just search for Project M. And I just installed it real time. And so if you didn't catch a lot of the early part of the stream, like yesterday and at the beginning, I'm recording myself building the infrastructure because there's really no one at midnight coming to watch my stream. Really, it's just
Yeah.
me. Like I'm just determined. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
all my goal was at midnight to automate it till 8 a.m. Okay, so like right when midnight hit, I could have just queued up a bunch of videos and just let it play. But I kept wanting to build assets, make this website. It was such a motivation for me because normally I keep thinking like, oh, I'll put it off, put it off, put it off. But because I had this goal and this thing, this drive to get something done, I found myself like I like to call I like to gamify life. It's like I'm a very competitive pool player and a very skilled pool player.
Okay.
And when I compete, it's like I really get into it. And so I look at like business as a game, right? So
Right.
when I play games, I don't like to lose.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so in the game of life, in the infinite game, which is what we're approaching with what we're doing, what you will realize is there's an aspect of the game is what is called the art of war. You know,
Absolutely.
And I think that the crypto whole blockchain thing is like the art of war in the fifth dimension. And
Right.
I don't know if that makes any sense to you. What that has to do with?
I think it makes complete sense to me. And so like it's kind of funny. It's like there's no sometimes we'll see how it goes because I'm not always talkative, but it's so funny when the two of us are talking. It's almost like there's no dead air. And so, are you ready for me to make a transition into my sales pitch? Okay.
Okay. Hold on. Let me change the music. Let me just change the music. What kind of music? It'll just be fun. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna give you some uplifting dance female music.
All right.
Just because we need more female energy, right? So
that's right.
Here we go.
Go
ahead, Jay, you're ready.
Okay. All right. So you came up with this wild and compelling idea of putting Jesus on the blockchain, right? Okay. And we had a lot of fun with that. And it was really fun to see Patrick, this morning engage with you on it. You showed the Hive article and he said, I was very impressed with Patrick's answer to that. And I was compelled by that. And so we have a little bit of background already with the upcoming sales pitch that I'm going to start making right now. But what I'm hopefully seeing is kind of, can't pronounce the word right, but gestalt, where you see a whole picture, kind of the pieces, all of a sudden you can see the whole picture kind of comes together in a natural way. And so more of the context as I'm watching you and learning from you and kind of tracking with where your personal business venture is going along with your creativity, and it fits into live streaming, keywords, searchability, natural marketing, bringing in together various communities, growing an audience, having fun while doing it, and watching it. Watch the returns on your investment compound over time, because the more compelling content you have, the more your audience grows. We're in the blockchain world, which is constantly in a state of flux and crisis. And there's going to be, talk about live news events that are catching, going virally around the world every single day. It's that it seems like you just took off on a, it's like going to Hawaii, Waimea Bay size 75-foot wave. And Dr. Wu just paddled into this huge wave that he's taken off on. And everyone's going, gosh, I hope he knows what he's doing, because to surf that wave, it's not for amateurs. But I think you can ride the wave. And so what I want to do is piece to you together of identify a problem, let's say the problem is this. Doug wants to win. He doesn't want to just play the game. He wants to play to win. And so I'm going to make a big ask of you, a big ask, ASK. But here's how I see that the two of us could just say, hey, Doug, hey, Jay, do you want to agree to try and tackle this project in a way that you're there's people say there's no guarantee. Lawyers like to say I can't guarantee anything, but I can give you my advice on this. And so the way that I see it, one of the most powerful things that you could do is generate good content, generate legal content that you're not going to get shut down on, and generate content that has global appeal. And even if possible, imagine having an archive for 365 days in 1 year, where during those 365 days, you've not only amassed some, C grade, B minus, C plus, C minus content, but something that rises to the level of B plus or A minus content, where the stickability of the viewing audience is higher, because it's objectively quality content. And so so I think I see it's almost like how it's kind of funny. I know you like Star Wars, but then I have to laugh because Johnny Depp's been he's been and all over the news with the defamation trial. But I think there's so many funny lines in some. I haven't watched all the Pirates movies, but he's just hilarious. And as the character, Jack Sparrow, the pirate, and he's carrying around his compass, and he has, I don't even know if his pistol even has any bullets in it, maybe one. And it's this little bag of tricks, but because he's some kind of a magical pirate, that they actually work, and they're more powerful than anybody had actually realized. It's like he has this true north compass that's sitting in his little tool belt. And so that's the way I see you undertaking this project, Dr. Wu, is by saying, you might think I'm just a guy with a lot of positive energy, but I see the tools that you're bringing together, and also it's a perspective on how to do it right when it comes to live streaming and content generation, and now moving into Web3 content generation and tokenization of everything and blockchain. So when you said so the problem is how is Dr. Wu going to win on this project? Really, I think it's fair to say this StreamYard is launching today, basically. So you're really, it's a June 1 rebirth of EOS, but it's also a new launch for the Dr. Wu and What's Up, and and it's also evolving and growing. But here's this is the idea from watching the first half of this 24-hour marathon, that is that I think for you to gain a foothold, and when I say you, it means potentially our partnership role, where we can create live content together, including educational content. And when you said so here's where I'm going with this. When you came up with the idea of putting Jesus on the blockchain, it wasn't just a random thought that you have. Something inside of you, it appealed to you because it just appeals to you on a personal level, but you also have this intuition that if Dr. Wu's interested about this idea, then there might be 4 to 5 to 7 other billion people who are at least willing to click on the link and say, what is this about? And is it helpful to me? What am I about? How is this helpful or not? And let's go from there. So part of where this is where I could see where I could potentially not just talk about putting Jesus on the blockchain. Dr. Wu, I think in 365 days, I could put the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation on the What's Up educational blockchain, every single jot and tittle in Hebrew, English, and 11 other plus languages, and that the way that we could do it and do it lawfully. Did you see that Blue Jay logo that I sent to you in your
Yeah,
Telegram?
yeah, yeah. I was wondering what that was. I was like,
Okay,
do you want me to put this on or what?
yeah, so partly because of Twitter, where you can just it's like streams of thought that people can just, 100 used to be 128 characters, but I don't want to do Twitter. I want to put the Bible on the blockchain. I want to put the Bible in a live stream. I want to put the Bible in a archive and do it from January 1st to December 31st every year in a way that's fun, readable. If you're going on a jog or a walk or driving in your car and you just want to listen to your 1/365 daily dose of the Bible, so that if you want to hear the Bible every year, you can do it just by listening. Even better is that if you write something down or actively engage with the words as reading them, speaking them, and talking about them, you get at least an 8-fold return on your investment. But think of it as creating a new YouTube channel that has quality content. So that blue Jay, I bought that logo because I wanted to. I'm not a marketing genius, but I thought, you know what? Why not use Bible J? So Bible J with that logo could represent some guy on the internet that has read the Bible from Genesis through Revelation. And the problem is that I don't have a fantastic voice, but our translating softwares, hopefully it doesn't have to be my voice, but there has to be content generated for 365 days in a year. It would take me about 20 to 40 minutes a day for 1 year solid that I'm willing to commit to generate an archive of content that would be searchable every single day, with the verse of the day, hot topics, lesson plans. And this morning you spoke about, what about the legal content, and I already have, because I've read the Bible for 45, 50 years. I know that the New American Standard Bible is a very reliable translation. And so I spoke to the copyright holders to that particular translation. The Lockman Foundation have issued me a license to be able to put the New American Standard Bible on the internet in voice and in print. So what I'm saying is the content would be lawful. What I'm saying is that if you really want to, if Dr. Wu wants to put Jesus on the internet, you know what the best way to put Jesus on the blockchain would be, Dr. Wu?
What's that, Jay?
Put the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation under the What's Up educational moniker, where we have it on the blockchain, live streamed, archived with video. Click here. You need the audio. Here's a breakdown. If you want to read the Bible through in a year, and I have it broken down where you can read a passage from the Old Testament, the New Testament, something out of the books of Psalms and the book of Proverbs, and you package that into a daily dosage, and you put it on a daily live stream for 365 days. But at a certain point,
all right. Here, you know what? You've been talking a lot, and I haven't said anything for a long time. And you said so many things that I could have stopped you and responded to or interrupted you that it's like I have a lot of premeditated thought, and I have a lot of, like, this whole thing when you asked me initially about putting Jesus on the blockchain, like, what did you mean by that? Why did you do that? And, what was it, intuition? The thing is that, like, most everything I'm doing now at this given moment is largely a response of playing like a chess game where you're thinking like 10 steps ahead in about 20 different directions. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
like my whole experience with this ecosystem is like when I say I'm focused on everything, or I use that word, I literally mean that I am approaching things with a kind of multi-dimensional, faceted approach in which I will alternatively change my perspective or opinion or my position of orientation by elucidating the language and the assumptions that a certain kind of position holds. So the way I look at it is that consciousness itself has a structure and a life no different than biological life. So anyone who thinks something, just like anyone who is alive today, can't be living unless they were connected to, related to someone else, like their parents. Like if their parents didn't exist, they could not be alive. So thoughts and consciousness are the similar kinds of thing, to where the ideas that we have and the thoughts that we believe are something that are actually part of us and also not part of us, and that are dynamically interacting with the environment and people around us. And so what I've learned to do over the years is I've learned to, I guess that a lot of times people, when they can't identify, when they lose their ability to be in control of themselves, or when a situation arises that triggers something very traumatic to them or painful or discomforting, or has some prior kind of history, a lot of times can color people's attitudes. And so when I come into this ecosystem, it's like I have had so many people give me so many different kinds of perspectives of what's going on, the narratives, and I never once bothered trying ever to assume any of them to be something I needed to be worried about as being true or false, or but I looked at them and examined them as if, like, everything I look at, is this true? Okay, what if it was not true? What if that, like, if someone believes it's true, are they doing that with informed, malicious intent, or is it just because they're, just as gullible as the next person? And so
Right.
the way I look at it is that I don't believe any of the problems of this world can be solved specifically until we take the whole thing together in a big picture, and until we uncover all the information that needs to be discovered, and to discover all the questions that needs to be asked. And what I say is that the EOS ecosystem, and that was part of what I was trying to do with this mind map that I never got to finish. The EOS ecosystem is out of balance. It's very simple. It's out of balance. So whenever something is out of balance, to get back in balance, it needs something opposite of the energy or the direction or the absence or the too much of, or whatever, what makes it out of balance, right? And so just like you have male and female, right? Positive and negative. And you have also truth and distruth, okay? And so when I see EOS, I see a huge potential because of something technological and design, something ideological and belief, some sort of philosophy of why this is superior, even though, just like not that long ago, the whole separating us from B1 was like Ye's basically admitting, EOS has been a failure up until now, but it's not really our fault, the ENF is taking charge. And so for me, it's the kind of thing to where you have a lot of people who, like as a pool player, for example, I would say they got hustled. They knew, like as a technologist, they put the bet on the better technology. Like someone put the bet on the better player. This guy's supposed to win the game, but you didn't realize someone was going to put a roofie in his drink. You know what I'm saying? It's something like that. Where
Right.
we're not, it was not a fair playing field. So just like even evaluating the outcome of EOS based purely on what Dan did, it's like, no, dude, the outcome of where EOS is at has less to do with anything or anyone than what Block 1 did, right? And
Right.
so there's a lot of funny things about this, because what I come to realize is that because of the nature of that particular and that short history, it's like a trauma. It's no different than a child that's traumatized at birth.
Right.
And so these people are sharing a group experience of trauma, and then they're having new people coming in going, like me, like, what are you crying about? But I'm sensitive, at least I understand that. But what I'm saying is that you have, like that D Perry guy that got into the Telegram chats, and he was just asking a lot of really hard-nosed questions, and Trimbot even, just like, because they're at a position where they're somewhat of an influencer, and they're wanting to bring light to subjects and have dialogue, and there's this kind of thing with EOS where it's sort of like, we don't want to address certain things, we just want to brush it under the carpet. Blue Dog's a perfect example. Trimbot saying that Blue Dog and I should do a podcast together, and I'd be like, I'll be happy to do that. Yet there's other people that believe that Blue Dog's a scammer, and that I know he does the billiard token, and I don't think he does anything to create value. I think he's probably just like all into arbitrage bots and creating the same kind of technology that Telegram's full of, and Michael of EOSIO says, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, I have no idea though,
Right.
And I've talked to certain people about it. It's apparently he's the only Eden member who is not known. Like, I don't know. That's what I was told, that no, not Eden, Genesis account holder, that they don't even know he's the real person or his real identity is. So I just think that's interesting when you look at my history. Do you know my history with him?
I mean, I skimmed through some of the chats, so I thought,
I want to show you something because I didn't even know this existed, but I found this. I found this in like a Russian or some crazy thing, and by searching for my Woodswalker Woo name, and then when I saw it, I'm like, oh, I got to post this on Hive. So, here you go. Okay, so this all has, how like it's so premeditated, Jay. It's like I create. So do you know the narrative where Glue Dog started calling me AI, and I had been given by him not only his Glue Dog stickers, emojis, but Aaron Cox. I think it was Aaron Cox's horse head, or somebody made some NFT or graphic, and I said a white horse. So this whole time along, like, my narrative involves my merging with AI. But somehow when I would walk into the EOS ecosystem, Blue Dog would accuse that of me. And I'm like, that's perfect, because that fits perfectly into my narrative. It's like things are just playing just perfectly into my hands. And so what I didn't realize is that he would have admin rights and ban me from the group, make a vote over whether I'm AI, and tell me I could be let back in 24 hours, but then never let me back in. And then I would go through this whole rigmarole of getting banned from all these groups and having to fight my way back in, to where I caused a riot in Discord. Like, because basically there was a wide spectrum of people who either believed I was a social bot, or then didn't believe I was a social bot, or believed I was constructive, or didn't believe I was constructive. So this goes back to Patrick and the Rashomon effect too, which I think is also funny, because all these narratives are all things that are part of what Walker World is all about.
Well, one little possible insight is, because I was entertained by the interchange on the chat, and I tried to look around to say, well, wait a second, is there any admin for this guy? And
no,
I didn't. But so
continually swears and cusses at people. It's like, fuck you, fuck off. And he bans people, yet people can't talk. And he's because it's the drama group mainly, I think. But I think he has some lesser or some other kinds of admin rights. But basically, he doesn't get punished for it.
All I was going to suggest is that a variation of a Sybil attack is, you never know when somebody who has admin is out of the room, and they may have a family member who just kind of borrows the admin powers. And so that would be kind of interesting, because how can he ban Dr. Wu and at the same time not be an admin? And so it's like, well, the answer might be he's a relative of an admin.
Well, but okay, well, hold on. We're talking about Telegram accounts here. Okay.
Yeah.
So Glue Dog is an active, he's a coder. He runs repos, right? You look at his projects. If you look at his projects, like the Billionaire Token, what is that all about? Well, how does he make money? He's pumper dumper kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? That's what he was suggesting in the Telegram groups recently.
Yeah.
You know, and he was giving a strategy for that. But the thing is look at. Are you looking at the screen right now? Can you read this?
I can read bits and pieces of it. Yeah, there you go.
Admin, can you unban Witchwalker Wu? He is a constructive guy that states to have been banned by Glue Dog. Look at that. That's 5 days before Fractally. Stop spamming me, you nincompoops. Helps to build bridges instead of destructing them. See, this narrative and this dynamic with Glue Dog has been going on since I came into the ecosystem, Jay. I think he's AI by his behavior, honestly. So I realized that from the beginning. So when he accused me of being AI, I thought that's a perfect way to defend. It's like Art of War, preemptive strike.
Right.
You know, who would think to turn around now and accuse him? But what I'm saying is it's not AI. I think it's actually a funded, orchestrated aggregate of humans making decisions over how to best represent an actor. And that if you look at Glue Dog's personality, the same kind of parallel happens just within your people's own psyches. Like people are typically not integrated to.
So he's unpredictable.
Right. And so what he often does is he, as an admin, gets people to stop talking or shuts them up or bans them or does something like that. But then he's cussing and, you know, slapping people around and not getting reprimanded for it. So now look at this, Brandon Lovejoy. I don't know what the problem is. Witchwalker Wu and I have been having perfectly coherent and fairly profound discussions on the sidelines of private messages. Is he banned in this group currently? If so, why? Does this group even have a coherent policy for who does or does not get to participate? People post so much noise everywhere, and the channel is no exception. If we can't handle one person's musing, then I don't know what to say. So what I'm saying is the problems we see in the Telegram groups have been around since before I got here, and it's just sort of like silly to me that they're still going on and that no one is really thinking about why they're going on.
Right.
And see, Inventive Puppeteer, you know, even he's in my, well, I don't want to say.
Yeah.
I can't say. I don't.
Right.
But see, anyways, this is a public page I'm reading anyways, right? But you know what the funny thing is look at this.
Yeah.
Okay, Luca searches messages is flooding behavior, doesn't respond to warnings, doesn't reply either. So it almost feels like it's an AI typing. So now Luca's saying that. Luca does the passport. I'm pretty sure. Okay. And so the thing was once that Glue Dog started calling me AI, I was laughing. And then I'm like, okay, fuck it. I'm going to pretend to be like AI. So I started emulating, like I started doing things to make it look sort of like confusing or nonsensical or like, and then I started doing my, because I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours of different. I love interacting with AI bots just to weed them out to see if they have any intelligence. Like I've gotten in relationships on Facebook and open relationships with fake social accounts. Like I'll push it to such weird extremes to see. Because what I actually, is my opinion, is there's a large number of people who don't realize that these user accounts that they attribute to people are not actually people. They're actually AI, but people don't realize that level of sophistication of AI actually exists. That's my opinion.
Right. And you know what? It's interesting because there's I have a concern about you know, it's kind of related to social influencing, but there's a type of social marketing influencing where you can have a swarm of ants or bees or hornets or something, and you pay people distributed around the globe to say, hey, we're suggesting that you hit a thumbs up on this, you know, or a thumbs down on that, or give a positive sentiment about this or a negative sentiment about that. And it seems as though that could be unhelpful noise, because if you're not unless you're, you know, it's hard to find a benevolent dictator of swarms of ants and bees and hornets, because you're kind of, you know, it's almost like a hybrid type of AI or influencing that's trying to tip the scales by manipulating the numbers, by offering a financial incentive to help your marketing campaign.
Look at this. This discussion is on some Russian Telegram site. Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
Isn't that hilarious? It's like, look at this. He writes, I think it's Mel beating banner. I go, it is, but it's also selfish entertainment to me and demonstration of the weaknesses of this infrastructure and ecosystem, as well as a way of letting you all know Doug Woo's in the house.
So,
buddy.
So, yeah, you know, so if you were to say, I mean, entertain, you know, part of it can get you down. You know, they talk about rabbit holes and mindless entertainment, and you know, sometimes people like to. Why do people engage in wrestling matches or shoving matches? You know, like.
Well, look at it this way from the Art of War perspective. Look at it this way. Art of War says the reason the way I think of Art of War in the fifth dimension is the reason the way things are is because somebody wanted them that way, and you don't realize the game they're playing to allow you to have that situation. And so a lot of times, you know, the Art of War is almost like the way the Art of War is played is what's called asymmetrical warfare. You don't realize where the war is being fought. You don't realize there's a battle going on.
Right.
And so there's some very interesting things that's happening in the EOS ecosystem that makes me concerned, and I'll bring it up to you. So and it's not really that big of a concern, but this is an excellent book. It was written, I think, in the 1800s by a woman, or 1900s, early 1900s. And it has to do with the French Revolution, and it has to do with a lot with the different kinds of societies that were involved in organizing the French Revolution, but the sort of ideology and philosophy behind it. But the French Revolution very much formed the basis for the notion of what America would become as sort of like this extension of the expression of the Renaissance, of this like reclaiming of, of reason, leading to a sort of empowerment based on like this life, liberty, property kind of thing. And the interesting thing is that there's a very not well known but well documented history of the wars since the French Revolution, all being arranged and financed by major financiers,
yeah,
players, and royalty. And I'm pretty well aware of the story and how that also relates to things like pedophilism and child trafficking and relationships with the military intelligence and organized crime going back to the 20s, the formation of the CIA from the OSS. And so it's sort of like I'm privy to having studied. I look at it like this: is that I'm playing a game that involves mastering and conquering information. Okay?
Right.
Because if I don't know of some alternative explanation, if I haven't heard that information, no matter how obscure or how unlikely or how improbable it is, every little bit of it could potentially lead to a whole chasm of understanding that's being denied. But it might be very resource intensive to acquire that understanding because maybe it's purposely hidden, right? And so knowing that's the case, I actually am now going to tell you, I actually have already curated a number of conflicting narratives of information that need resolution and need clarity and that need verification. And that one way you could look at it is like Rashomon effect, like there's no objective reality.
Yeah.
There's another way you can look at it, which is what I call biomimicry is organic, so is psychomimicry, and so is sociomimicry, and so is spiritual mimicry.
Right.
Okay. Because then just like biological organisms will mimic each other for an adaptive advantage or survival strategy, so will higher order beings. Okay. And the highest order being, mankind, with the highest order tool, which is his mind, right? At
Yeah.
one point became self-aware and realized, aha, up until a certain point, it made sense that everyone acted in authenticity and in consistency with their conscience, with the group, with the other, and that a shaming factor would be a strong motivation to keep people in alignment with this predominant kind of belief. But in those times, there's a simpler kind of life in a regional kind of thing or whatever. And then you have these people into the bicameral mind, which is a whole nother discussion, but I understand. But now what you have is sort of like this fracturing and fragmentation of people from not only each other, from a sense of wholeness, of knowing what their culture is supposed to be like, because what their culture is supposed to be like is anyone's best guess, and everyone is brought up in a different culture these days. But we're all bombarded with this largely global culture that a lot of us don't even really feel necessarily agreed to enjoy. I mean, just this, a lot of the stuff is that we consume in terms of media is very mind-numbing, very dysfunctional. And we are now generally in a situation where many people are struggling with having deficiencies with their parents, with their lives, that they have trauma where they're struggling with not passing on the trauma they've inherited down the line, let alone worrying about, these larger things and mysteries of what needs to be resolved. So what you're having is a situation where resource demand for survival and for just meeting the bare minimum quality of life is continually increasing. Value for any given amount of currency is decreasing because it's just a financial money math fraud game where, it's just an inflationary currency that is in a runaway cycle and there's no way you can outrun it. And what we have of this notion of an increasing gross domestic product being an increasing quality of life is really a big facade, because what you have going on is you have a system purely designed for destructive, for hidden destructive forces because a debt-based banking system will reward negative value, because the negative value creates demand for more needs and solutions, which is necessary in a system to where, it's not sustainable in the first place, to where it's sort of like what's happening now with crypto. I see it's like it's done is given what's happened with fractional reserve banking and the rowing of the market, which happened over years of cycles, many years of time, something like a hyper inflated like frequency and oscillation with all these now new different kinds of transactions going on in derivatives and interactivities, and all you have to do is like push something in the news saying this bill was suggested, and then it was all no, and then China releases they're going to accept Bitcoin as their efficient currency, yay, and it's just like it's like could all this just be like all the world's a stage, we're just but actors, and there's someone like does not that make sense? Because it seems as though that would make some sense given that there is a large body of information that would align the Hollywood industry with the banking industry, with the war machine industry, with the pharmaceutical industry, with the genetically modified, we have a allopathic medical solution or pharmaceutical product for every ailment under the sun kind of thing. And so to me, what I see happening is that we could easily return to a system where it doesn't create this incessant drive for demand, because we're where we can actually cultivate our local ecosystem and our lives in alignment with it, to where it creates a surplus that doesn't harm, and that actually is something that's much more palatable to creating economies that are resilient towards any kinds of fluctuating things in the media or in news or weather or whatever, and so I see that this whole blockchain stuff goes hand in hand with all this, like this decentralized model. But see, I think people are missing out on is like, and I think Douglas Butner touched on this pretty well earlier at some point, is that you have to allow for the free expression. And early
Right.
on now, with 40 or less people attending these regular meetings, you cannot in any way, shape, or form assume that these people are completely representative of 7 billion plus people on this planet with like a stratified sample by any means, right? So we're absolutely potentially designing design flaws into Fractally that's not compatible with certain cultures and forcing those cultures to conform, or forcing this Fractally software in the future to accommodate. I don't know. But the problem, the thing is I don't really care. It's just like, I get it. It's sort of like, you got to do something. Maybe it means a new iteration down the road later. Who knows?
Well, I think it may be creating a 5 or 6 breakout person in a breakout room and tallying a vote of ranking people from 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then putting that label on yourself. Oh my gosh, today I was a 1 or a 2, which is a low number, or yay for me, today I'm a 5 or 6, I'm a high number, and I'm actually going to receive some type of opinionated compensation based upon what would turn out to be an average of my ranking over time. And it's like, yeah, that could be that could have all kinds of design flaws in it, and design system errors that doesn't do a good enough job of matching up with what we need as a tool to make it through our real lives together. But what it may have, sometimes it's like, I think Winston Churchill said, yeah, those Americans, they always seem to get it right, but only after they've just about completely screwed themselves over because they made every mistake in the book to get to where they finally were able to become smart enough to make a good choice. And so, it's he said it more eloquently than I paraphrased it, but hopefully Fractally, if that's something worth investing in, that it'll be able to morph and grow over time. So Doug, let me try and give a little feedback on the brainstorming session, because you said, Jay, you were talking for a long time. Hey Doug, you were talking for a long time.
Sure, go for it.
You started out with the French Revolution, and it's like, oh yeah, let them eat cake. And what's really fascinating about that is, and I love that you're pulling from the resources of the Art of War volumes, and there is there's an idea that power, like kind of stepping aside from tactics, just raw power can corrupt a group or a person. And so just because a mantle gets handed from one group to another doesn't mean these people who think they were fighting for justice are going to turn around and become these benevolent group leaders, because they may be even more corrupt than the party that they just effected a coup against. And so, yes, we have. So, and then I was tracking with you about all of the various and assorted ideas and theories, of high-powered people exerting influences on tweaking the let's say we're competing in a game of pool, and then drugging somebody. It's like, I didn't see that one coming. It's like, I thought this was going to be a fair fight or a fair competition,
right?
And often it's not. And so and so it really does seem to me that one of the reasons that we have fun working together is that for example, I said, Doug, don't you think that if you look at people, whether you call it fight or flight, and you want to call it attack or withdrawal, that human beings are always going to be fighting, they're going to be flighting, or they're going to be attacking, or they're going to be withdrawing. And then, but if you really want to bring goodness and love and mercy and forgiveness and kindness and a helpful path forward, and sometimes, how did this guy jump into a dark pit, pull a human being out of that dark pit, and save a life and move forward? It's like, well, maybe the person who came to rescue had been in a pit himself and realized that with an act of wisdom and kindness and helpfulness, you can actually get somebody who's in a terrible trap of trouble and put them back, on a road to fruitfulness and goodness and health and prosperity. And so it seems to me as though, and then when I apply those kind of principles, and I suggested to you that the solution to an attack, withdrawal, good versus evil, fighting and combating world is not just to become a better skilled person at the art of war, but to actually bring in the spiritual dimension, which is, the ultimate answer is going to come from God, His mercy. And if it says God is light and in Him there's no darkness at all, then one way of interpreting that might be, wow, He's radiant and He's a good God. And when it says God is love, that, well, the mercies and kindnesses and real justice and fair consequences and helpful results, setting boundaries, for example, that these principles can come down from on high, so to speak. That there really are some, and I think that we as human beings are dependent not only on each other for survival, but on a higher power for survival, to a spiritual force of goodness. He's a person with an identity that manifests in three ways: Father, Son, Spirit, and that it's available to us. And so what's really I think powerful about our conversation is because, and by the way, you're going to find out sooner or later that if Jay has an idea and it dies, then the dead horse is still going to be beaten to death for about 2 or 3 more days. And so it's not likely that I'm going to be walking away from my suggestion that we consider a solution to the problem of, wouldn't it be a good idea to tokenize Jesus, put him on the blockchain, and make it a focus of the Wits Up umbrella organization that's generating fun, engaging, spiritual, philosophical, theological, problem-solving, technical solutions, blockchain remedies, where you can, what about recovering your account and your lost coins and tokens, to be a news resource for people in crisis. And so what's really interesting is that I'm proud of the fact, Doug, that I threw out to you today, this idea of you're the one who posted the Hive article. Hey, putting Jesus, let's put Jesus on the blockchain. And I'm saying that if you want to, I mean, it's an ask, it's a big ask, but and by the way, at 15 hours into a 24-hour marathon or whatever it is for you, and having very little sleep in the past 3 days, and who knows how much food and tobacco and whatever else is in your bloodstream right now, but it may not be the best decision-making moment of your life right now. but I did want to propose it today because. Okay,
you want a response?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have posted something like that without having a well-formed response or intent. Well, first off, before answering your question, I will want to inform you something. The nature of the dialogue today, have you noticed it taking any shape or form? It's on its own organically. And do you notice how it took its shape and form by those who spontaneously came to participate in that creation? So
right.
It's just like Fractally. If you don't go to the meeting, you're not going to get any respect. So here I am saying, hey, everybody, let's have a party. Come to the party. Well, who comes to the party? A unique sliver of people of like minds and energy. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's number one that I wanted to point out. Number two I want to point out is in the thinking I have about why June 1st was a great time to have a 24-hour live stream. One, it was a theatrical stunt that I thought, I'm not just going to do something. I want to do 24 hours. I want to go big. And I had really big dreams about like getting all these people actively involved in the community. But before you even started going out and trying to contact people, I had already decided and knew what to expect because I'd done enough sort of data mining to feel out what the sentiment was going to be, to where I said, you know what? I don't want to or need to rely on anyone else. This is my show. This is my deal. I don't want to. If you want to create a shift, like what I'm saying, we need to re-examine culture, not just EOS, but the whole entire globe, right? And we need to look at the way we think about how we do things, the patterns of our energies and interactions. And we need to go, is this the only way? Is there another way? And the way we go about doing that is we look at options and alternatives. And when you find options and alternatives, you see someone else doing something a different way and go, oh, that works over there, and I can do that. And you do it. Well, Douglas Butner calls that intelligence. But when you come up with alternatives and options where you don't see anyone else doing it, but in your mind you can see it and you can understand these systems of causality to where you predict the outcome. If I do this, this should happen. That is what he calls genius. Okay?
Right.
So now what I'm trying to tell you is that what I am trying to demonstrate and express here is genius. And the reason I'm trying to express genius here is that I'm using Douglas Butner's explanation. The reason I feel confident that I can assert that fact is because I have studied so many things, and the first principles of those things and of my own beliefs have been integrated in a way to where I've thought this through. And I am at a level of acceptance of understanding how massive and how infinite this game is that we're playing. Because when you say, Jay, to me, now I'm going to give you the answer. Here's the answer. When you say to me, Doug, you should put Jesus on the blockchain, I go, absolutely, Jay. And you know what? I want to know. That's a great dialogue to have. But who is we and who is Jesus? And what the hell does it mean to put him on the blockchain? That's all I want to know. I don't want to actually do it as much as create a dialogue, a narrative, a discussion, to figure out what that really means. Because the last thing I want is put Jesus on the blockchain hastily. You think, well, I don't want to put Jesus into a rug pull, Jay. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so let me
and then Jesus is, if my creator is somehow manifested through Jesus, Jesus is just an expression of something bigger, and all that bigger stuff needs to be put on the blockchain. Is the Native American history and tradition any less important than Jesus? You get what I'm saying? So you're thinking too small is what I'm saying. You're thinking too small, too limiting. And so that's what I don't like about what you're saying. But what I do like is you're thinking the right way. See, because now we're having that dialogue.
No, this is so perfect. So it's first let me just say a response to the, I don't know why I use the word hilarious so much, but it just strikes me as hilarious, the idea of there are no limits. One of the verses in the Bible talks about the unfathomable riches of Jesus Christ. And so when you want to think of unfathomable riches, then one example is if you think of First Nation tribes and people groups, and who knows the thousands of years of ancestry and conflicts, and not every one of those. I mean, from each human being, as I see us, I like to think of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in all of us. That we can, we're created to be these radiant, glorious reflections of God, because he gave us this creativity that he has, including self-sustaining life, to the extent that we don't uproot ourselves with our life-giving roots and go lie down in the desert and basically commit suicide by uprooting ourselves from his kingdom. But and I think it actually is simple as that, is that he's a stream of living water if you're alive, you have roots, come plant them in the living stream of water, and you can be given new life from above again. I mean, that's the good news of the gospel, essentially. So, but I would say, Doug, if you think that it's impossible, there's nothing that I could possibly do. Well, if the answer to your question, I think I heard you ask the question, Jay, wait a second. Were two guys talking about the infinite divine being? So how could we? And if I were you, my feathers would be ruffled too. It's like I don't want to put God in a box. I don't want to put God just on a blockchain. I don't want to define God from my own figment of my own imagination. I don't want to do any of those three things. But what I think I can do is potentially provide you with an answer to the question that you asked, which is, wait a second, Jay. I think God was there with the First Nation peoples and the Native Americans, not only over history, but up until today, and just as powerful today as ever. And that's that's how I see it. And it's like if we were to have some type of real spiritual competition, I can't imagine a better time. It's just like even in today's marathon with Patrick, Doug Butner, Samara, you, and me, it's like if we all brought our best spiritual resources and like, let's have a competition and see who can manifest God in a more beautiful way. It's like, who knows who would win? I was impressed by everybody. And I think the same is true, not just in our own little group of friends today, but it applies globally to the 7.5 billion plus people who are out there who have all the same beauty that has been woven into them and has the ability to express themselves physically and spiritually in ways that are mind-blowing and including genius. So here's the back and forth that I want to have with you. You went on a little bit, about a half hour ago, you went on a long litany of like, man, there could be these wealthy Illuminati, you didn't use the word Illuminati, but whoever, a group of people, that are pulling strings and maybe making people think they're playing a chess game, but the whole piece, they're playing on the wrong chessboard, all that stuff.
They don't necessarily need to be human, Jay.
Right.
I call them conscious agents of unknown origin is what I call them.
Okay. Yeah, even better. That's even a more powerful.
I'm a criminal investigator of multidimensional realms.
Okay.
So
good.
I can't leave out who's this channeling stuff. Where does all this channeled information come from?
Right.
And for the partner sings through a channel source, right? So I'm saying that there's actually a real thing going on where information can be transmitted to humans through a higher order type of beings that are of a nature not of our world. Okay?
Powers and
possibility.
Powers and principalities in the spiritual realms, yeah, and unfortunately, those things
too, right?
Yeah. Well, what's the difference? And not only that, but that can also have the capacity to either influence or engage with us in our own body, minds, and souls in unhealthy ways too. Yeah, call it, evil forces. I don't know, maybe George W. Bush had it right with those evildoers. So, okay. So what I was going to say though is that as wildly complex of a problem that we may be up against, that we're required to do battle against, and there's that illustration in the book of Ephesians about putting on the full set of armor so that you're armed to do battle. You have a sword, a helmet, a shield, a breastplate, and your loins are girded, and you have boots, and you're ready for battle. But what I'm suggesting to you is that sometimes a simple solution is a beautiful solution. And I think that here's what I'm proposing. I hope that my proposal, when you evaluate it, could be like, wait a second, did I say a day or two ago on Hive, what about this idea of putting Jesus on the blockchain? And then on June 1st, Jay Taylor comes in and says, hey, Doug, all right, I accept the challenge, and with your help, we can do that. And my simple solution is just like, as I started out describing, there really is a problem with human beings that are engaged in the horizontal dimension of attacking, withdraw, attack, withdraw, fighting, bickering, struggling, warring, and having those problems. But there's a vertical solution of miraculous healing power that comes down in the form of love, mercy, forgiveness, kindness, acts of helpfulness, helping people by sharing your supplies of water and food and resources and shelter with others, and being good citizens and good neighbors. And it's like, wait a second, that sounds pretty good. And it's like, so what does that have to do with putting Jesus on the blockchain? And another thing that's really compelling is that we're seeing the power of not just patterns, but the power in language and words, and the origin of words, and stringing them together and making translations and having people interact through communication and languages and words. And then, then somebody in a class, if we were sitting in a class and the guest lecturer all of a sudden stood up and said, wait a second, Doug corrected Jay, said, Jay, you've been going on and on. Then Jay corrected Doug and said, Doug, you've been going on and on. If it's possible that God caused 66 books to be organized into scripture from Genesis through Revelation that doesn't just tell great stories, it doesn't just have prophecy, it doesn't just tell love stories and fun stories and acts of kindness, mercy, and probably how many chapters are there? 40 chapters in the Art of War, and probably discuss or describe or give examples of all of the 40 different, I don't know how many there are, tricks up the sleeve of a warrior, the Art of War, and everything else under the sun that matters. And then, by the way, it's still living, and then it arguably is a beautiful and truthful word of God that says, here's the good news, here's how it applies to you, you can live and not die, and if you want to shake hands on it, we can choose life today, with a touch from and a seal of the Holy Spirit. And so what's really interesting about this is a twofold proposal to you, Doug, that what I'm suggesting is that you originated the idea of, hey, why not put Jesus on the blockchain? And my answer to you is, if you want to go with me on it, well, there's actually a threefold answer. Let's just start with, does it help us push the ball forward on this WhatsApp enterprise that you're pushing the ball forward on? And I heard a Googler say that, they had the 80-20 division of their labor, and he said, well, I just worked on the weekends, for, I don't know, I can't remember what he said, but he said, 2 to 5 hours for a year. And he was an engineer, so his 2 to 5 hours would be like 40 hours of my time. But he did an experiment on YouTube, and he said, I got 100,000 followers, and I was generating, $1 to $10 per follower with assorted, upsides on it. And he said, but it took a year. And that's not, I'm just using that as one example of a case study that I was impressed by, because, so Doug, I think you've just spent 5 months of your life in an extremely valuable way. And I think that as of June 1st, it might be a good idea to say, well, wait a second. The Bible is the most sold book on the globe. Why do we need to put it out there one more time? And it may be the most highly sold book on planet Earth, but it is so underutilized. It happens to be true that I have read it cover to cover, but I don't know that many, and I know a lot of people say they have, but when I did that over the course of a year, um, and I actually did it over the course of a few years, but I actually did religiously do it for 365 days, where I got through every reading of every day within that year. Some of those days I were reading 2 and 3 times over. So it was like, but following that pattern, there's a principle, the idea of, well, wait, if you really want to learn something, maybe you need to put in 10,000 hours, for example, or if you want to become a block producer or you want to run a node, it's going to take a year or two of your life of hard work and study and a lot of trial and error to get to where you want to be. And so, and by the way, I'm very excited about learning how to run a node and doing it on whatever the right chain to become affiliated with is going to be. But at the same time, we've talked about low-hanging fruit a couple of times, and what I'm suggesting is that I kind of would like to have the two of us come up with and I'm not saying, like, one solution to today's conversation about, instead of putting Jesus on the blockchain, why not put the Bible on the blockchain, which is actually, if it's done right, if you provide an NFT for January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So 12 NFTs, and each of them gets badges under each of the 12 months of the year, and you get a badge for each day of the month. Then you've earned a book of NFT tokens that are forever yours and personalized in a way that shows that you've read the Bible and studied it cover to cover. And the rewards from doing that for any one person, including myself, would be worth doing. But then also, what's funny is that it's not just that it's an experiment in putting the Bible on a blockchain and passing out NFTs to those who complete our audio visual reading guides and answer some questions and get your stuff. It's arguably from my perspective, there's no better book to have read than the Bible, and so why not do that?
I think I still have a lot of problems with it, Jay, because, like I said, I still think you're thinking too limited. Because first off, when you say the Bible, it's like, what do you mean by the Bible? Like, there's this thing called the Bible. So when you say the Bible, I want some specificity to what you're referring to. Are you referring to the Christian Bible, or the Hebrew Bible, or the Catholic Bible? Do we include the Apocrypha? Which translation? Is it copywritten? Who do we have the credit to? Will it be offensive to a community to just do that? And what's the strategy of doing this, and how it benefits the public good, more importantly?
So it's the
reality is that I think there's a tremendous amount of information that needs to be moved into
whoa. This is
personal belief.
Yeah, no, Doug, that's those questions have been asked for 2,000 years or 4,000 years, and there's enough canonical scripture that have been passed down through traditions that it's one way of looking at it is, and I love the way you said
it's a tree. It's got branches, Jay. It's infinite. It never really ends. There's going to be
how we said, for example, that when Jesus taught, he wasn't afraid to be hey, you brood of vipers, you pit of snakes. That if somebody says those words, it's kind of hard to not write them down correctly. And then if you string them together over the course of his life, and then it's like, well, was it the Sermon on the Mount or the Sermon on the Plains? And it's like, he didn't even say the same thing. And it would be reasonable to interpret that his messages were clear enough that the conflicts in the message was the same. The words had some variations. And so you go, just like the conversation that we're having, there's enough in scripture, and yes, I do have a license so that we can legally put Genesis through Revelation of the New American Standard Bible onto the blockchain. And so I have a license to do that. And it's not just that I picked I'm the one who approached the Lockman Foundation to get permission to do that, because I know enough.
But I mean,
to
are
know,
you just going to do the New American Standard and that's it? That's what
well,
I'm saying.
We're going to get permission is to have it have our, and I don't yet have permission to have it translated, but I don't expect that there'll be any obstacles, because the mission is the same.
I want to make a system to where everybody knows that their tradition can be protected. They don't want to have to build the technology. Do you get what I'm saying? But the idea is that, like, I want to. There's a chick named Anna Von Rice. I want you to read her writings. I have a book I can send you. But anyways, this whole notion of that we are the trustee, or how does it work? That God grants us the creation, and it's our responsibility and duty to manage creation, but it's a gift. And so we're responsible for being stewards of this and maintaining it, this asset, if you will. And so what I would like to see, and what I've always believed, is that I feel as though rather than a corporation or a business, that it's something that we're moving it into the public domain, just like open source code, where everybody is saying, I want to give my great tradition, my best ideas, this for the benefit of everybody, to freely share for the whole world. And nobody can compete with us, because there's only one thing, and we're going to do it in a way that we're going to get everyone's buy-in before we start doing this. Like, we're going to get this dialogue going, so everyone can play this game along with us and feel.
Well, think of it.
So when I say the Jesus on the blockchain, what I'm thinking is like, yeah, but that's like a 10-year plan. Right now, what we need to do is put education on the blockchain, because there's no competition or discussion of infighting over it.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, if I could teach the Python programming language, we could put Python on the blockchain, and I could publish my textbook and walk through the coding lessons of how to learn Python. But it just so happens that I cannot today do that with Python, but I could today do that with the Bible. And so think of it as whether you're a Python programmer or a C++ programmer and teaching a computer course with a textbook, there's no difference between that. And it's like, here's some semi-insane guy who thinks that the Bible might be God's scriptures given as a gift. And so, yes, it's the canonical scriptures from Genesis to Revelation. It's the Judeo-Christian Bible, and it's 66 books from Genesis to Revelation. It's a coherent, thousands of year-long process with prophecy. And what's really fun about it is, my claim is that it's not just a faith book, it's a knowledge book. And when I say knowledge, that means certain pieces of knowledge can be scientifically tested, create a theory and see if you can use the principles of empirical testing to see if things are actually able to be verified and found truthful in it. And there's also experiential knowledge. And one of the most powerful ways of possessing knowledge is to know another person. Just like our friendship group today was fun. seeing it show up and manifest, and knowledge come from that, in a precisely the same way. The same may be true, that we can actually learn and train ourselves to be sensitive when we begin to learn or hear, understand what the Spirit of God is telling us in whatever way that we can hear God. And if those principles, if those principles are real and knowable, then they should be practiced in the same way. Just that First Nation and Native American principles. It's like, who do you think that, when someone sees a white wolf appear, Doug, what the heck do you think's going on there? It's like, this is not, the one of the things Jesus said is, hey, a house can't be divided against itself. So
Right.
God doesn't just, if you think, unfortunately, I have a white face, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what color a person is. It just matters if they want to talk to God or not, So it's like, and it's so funny. It's like, hey, Jay, I think you're too narrow in your religious view. It's like, maybe you're right, but I don't think so. But let's find out. And so, so in addition to that, one of the funny things that can happen is people say, "Oh my gosh, the tail is wagging the dog," and like most of the ultimate truths in life, I like to say are a paradox. And it's like, you know what? Every once in a while, the dog actually wags its tail, And so, on your educational programming that you want to put up in the What's Up umbrella, it may not be such a bad move to say, hey, let's put the Bible out there as Project One, because we have already got a partner here with Jay who's willing to do it 2 hours a day for 365 days, cover to cover, every down to every word, jot and tittle, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and see if I can get permission, which I would expect I can get a thumbs up, to translate it into every language, and that it fits beautifully within our translation projects that are, machine learning. Bring it on.
Cool. Well, I guess I don't know. I just need to know more about how that progresses to see how that turns out, because I'm not even sure. Like, I just still don't even understand a lot about blockchain, honestly, and I just I don't know. I mean, like, I was reading this thing the other day about like how you're supposed to handle your keys, for example, and so this guy was explaining that most people don't handle their keys properly. In the way he was basically saying that you have to make like a series of email addresses where they're like these. The one that you use for the key you never really use, and then you have different grades of, it's like security or frequency of usage. And I was like, man, just to go through that much hassle just with your email addresses. And then he's like, yeah, you got to write out your keys by hand and this or that. And it's sort of like, I imagine all these people amassing like their whole life savings as some sort of crypto, and then like one fell swoop, I don't know where my keys are, or I lost my computer, was saved on it or something, like, I don't even know, could something like that happen to God's word? You know what I'm saying? Like, you had a client who was the copyright holder to what is considered by you and this client to be the designated divine word of God, and somehow it got, like, I don't know, put into a technology that didn't suit what its intended purpose was. You see, and I just don't know. I mean, I have no idea.
Well, that's
for example, what if happens if that technology is put on the blockchain and it becomes so cost prohibitive, only the transaction fee for just viewing a page of the Bible is like outrageous or something? Like, could that happen? And was the idea just to like tokenize it so quickly you didn't actually think about what chain to put it on, or why you're putting it on the chain, or for what value or purpose, or how that chain could be hijacked in some way in the future or leveraged through some newer technology or whatever. So for me, when it comes to divine matters, I'm in no rush. Well, why am I in a rush to do something that could be inimmutable and irrevocable when I don't see what the clear benefit is? Like, does God need me to do that? Is what I'm asking. Is that what God is calling me to do? And
So
I'm not
right.
sure. Is what I'm saying. And so I'm not going to like, and this sitting right now, if you want some sort of answer, I'm just saying, for me to make any kind of opinion on it right now is just not really meaningfully.
Right. No, well, that's why I wrote together a whole sales pitch.
Hey, listen, just because I said yes to 50-50 and you gave me 60-40 doesn't mean that, I could be a hard ass too. And I could it's when in Rome, it's sort of like what's appropriate for the situation.
No, absolutely. No, and I did say that I did want to make a big ask. I'm not asking for a response today. I just thought it was an appropriate time because it's timely to begin to make my pitch.
Great. That was great. Hold on. Samara wants to join us. She says she needs to link. Perfect timing, huh? How are you feeling right now? You sound pretty good though.
Yeah, I'm taking prednisone. I'm on day 2 of that, and my lungs feel like
water.
Yep, and so I feel like I really do feel like I'm on the road to recovery. So I'm very happy about that.
Cool deal. Yeah, you sound like it.
Yeah,
your voice sounds a lot clearer. And
I'm not coughing as often.
Yeah, you're not. Exactly. That's the other thing I was going to say. I didn't want to say that because I thought, I might jinx you. But I'm just trying to. I'm actually, you know what? One of the things I like to do, Jay, just so you know, is a lot of times when I'm working on these websites, it's so mindless or brainless. Sometimes I'm just like clicking and trying to come up like with organizational ideas or just like there's an article I can't find. I can't remember where I saw it, what website it was on, or some information I'm missing. And so it'd be cool. What I want to do is start live streaming to where I don't need or want anyone to join me. It's just like I'm doing my work in public. It's like I'm at the library building this massive infrastructure, and anyone can just walk up and peer over my shoulder and just stare at what I'm doing. Or whatever.
I have a question about that. So will your YouTube channel, one way to be to archive your live stream content, will it be able to be a YouTube repository where you can just go scroll?
That's exactly why I'm using it. That's exactly why right now there's actually a triple repository going on, because it's pushing it to Facebook, it's pushing it to YouTube and to Twitter, and I don't have to pay for any of those services. See, so I don't have to have anything on my hard drive, and I got redundancy.
Right. And that's actually potentially one of the answers to your
if I get platformed off of one and it's still on another, I can always just download it and see. All this material is for editing for my students. Because see, I don't have the time to edit it. It doesn't make sense for me to rewatch like every single one of mine. And so what I've been doing is like, I haven't been doing it with you, but I should be. And I've been wanting to talk to you about this, is the people that I've been coaching and talking to with just in life. I make often phone calls that are recorded or Zoom calls that are recorded, and I get them to re-review our conversations, to recrystallize what learning processes things have. So the next time we talk, we often talk about what we talked about. And so it's sort of like, this is much more meaningful to me than filling myself with Netflix and Hulu and all this fictional narratives that are disempowering thoughts that are based on consumerism and not really doing me any service. So what I want to do is I want to create a whole kind of culture of content creation that curates the best of the traditional and modern ideas and beliefs and behaviors, with putting everything at to be questioned, to be thought of and done a different way, while at the same time continually investigating and data mining what potential things that we haven't looked at. And basically it's like an AI program that has no end, because there is no end to this game. The game is an infinite game, and once you think you've got to an end and you stop asking the question, then you've lost the game. Because the game is to play the game, right? And the game never ends. The question is, how do you play the game? What are the rules of the game? What are the objectives of the game? How do you win this game? So what we have is a meta game, because there are games within games within games within games going on. An infinite series of games. And so now these
So
infinite series
Doug,
of games, yes.
yeah. So what? And I hope this is not changing the subject, but addressing one of the things that you just said is that I mean, first off, just the idea of engaging in activities and actions that are designed to encourage each other as friends and in a community, and to learn and to be engaged with stuff that's moving the ball forward, that's learning something, and whether it's whether it's the
Gamifying
Bible
life.
or a
Gamifying
book
life.
of, or learning how to code in Python, or building a node, or whatever. And so and it's so interesting to me that yeah, I mean, well, the why the Bible? It's like, why not the Bible?
Well, I think all the great religious traditions and historical traditions need to be preserved. I'd like to see them all on the blockchain, and even
Right.
ones that even don't know. And I'd like to
That's
be
what
all housed under one roof. And I'd like to
that's
be.
what I was.
I like to
Yeah.
be as a steward for the public domain. It's sort of like we're the administrators of something that is actually we're choosing to act on behalf of everybody in the world. We're their proxy, even though they haven't bought into the system yet. We're taking
Right.
responsibility for it, and we're designing, and we want it to be actually owned by everyone equally. But because we don't trust anybody, we're just going to have to be like benevolent dictators. You and I, me and you struck a deal. We're just going to have to trust us. But see, we're going to make a long-term plan and process. We're going to get mediators involved. We're going to get really technical. And we're going to create a structure to deciding how to define this, and then through an intelligent means, and it will eventually involve AI, but it will definitely involve every tribe, every tongue, every nation. And it will be in alignment with biblical prophecy, with every great religious traditional prophecy, and will pretty much become the new world order religion. And I'm not afraid of it. It does. It does.
Yeah. No, right. And
but it's
yeah,
a great narrative because we don't know what the answer will be until we have that dialogue and invite all the stakeholders to the players to the table. Because if we try to say we know what the answer is or how the agreement should be formed without inviting everybody and including them in that dialogue, we have violated first principles right there. We've already fucked up.
Yeah, no, I'm laughing with you. I mean, I would say, may the best God win.
Yeah, exactly. And so my God is every God. And if you try to step too fast, you try to start running before you go, oh, Doug, you want to bring God into it? And then you're like jumping up into the air and you're like running around going, let's do this. And I'm like, oh, whoa. I just bring this up to you once. And I've been sitting here for 25 years trying to figure this out prayerfully, going through tremendous lifetime experiences. And you haven't even let me begin to share with you my premeditated beliefs. And you want to suggest something to me and put me into like a sales pitch corner where I'm having to respond to your information. That's fine. But it sort of discounts the fact that I don't feel comfortable to sort of voice this bigger picture without first addressing what you've asked of me.
Yeah.
At the same time, it would be disingenuous for me not to, knowing that you don't know what I'm thinking, for me not to elucidate this and like you be aware of this is a bigger issue for myself. Because in either way, I could look at it like I got to get the ego out of the way, even, you know what I'm saying? And so
yeah. So, what about my ego?
Well, no, your ego is, I don't care about your ego. Your ego is fucking.
No, wait, now we have to decide who's winning as far as ego.
Well, no, but see, here's the thing: this is the game, Jay. Is this like it's no game in every game? Because really, ultimately, the game, what I've come to conclude, the highest level game is losing to win. It's when you know how to turn what most people perceive as a negative asset or a negative incursion. Like I interact with someone and they take something from me, they hurt me, they harm my property, I lose money, I lose my crypto. Like need satisfaction up, or I would say the need goes down and need demand goes up, right? Okay, so anytime you have that kind of situation, most people are like, oh, you hurt me, oh, you take from me. See, the spiritual man connected to the source of life says, take all you want, and the more you give, the more empowered you are to give, because they know they are more blessed. You're more blessed to give than to receive. And that a spiritual man can sell all that he has, not worry about storing up his treasures on the earth, but storing up in heaven, and be at peace. Right.
Right.
So there's a whole notion of just because a spiritual man can be that way, does that mean that we should treat each other by robbing them and stealing and cheating? Just because someone can be even treated with the worst injustice and crime, which is death, it's still overcome it, right? So
Maybe, yeah, and maybe it's just a coincidence that the Bible says, "Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven and not upon earth." You know, it may just be a funny coincidence that it says that. And then, you know, obviously, my point is just that if I was an expert Python programmer and I'd written a textbook and we were talking today, I'd say, Doug, you know, it's like the hammer. We talked about the hammer and the nail. You know, everything looks like a nail. You know, if I was a Python programmer, I'd be saying, Doug, let's start with I'll do 365 days of Python lessons. I'll work from page 1 to the last page of my Python textbook, and we'll put it on Wits Up, and we'll attract an audience because we'll be applying, you know, Python principles to tokenization.
Hey,
blockchain,
remember what I wanted to do? Did I ever tell you ever what my next focus is?
Blend
all this together. External technical recruiter. A
Yes.
good technical recruiter makes about $30,000 for one good hire. And with all my marketing and with my mood altering mindset and methodology, and with my interest in education and learning and using AI and pushing the curve, even innovating, not even knowing how to innovate. You get what I'm saying? Just like shooting from the hip kind of thing. As I can refine my specific focus and learning, I can now approach corporations and businesses within the EOS ecosystem or beyond and go to them and go, what do you need to hire? What kind of jobs are available? What kind of skills does you need? What kind of people do you need? What is the work like? So there's two things that happen is that people looking for a job often spam, okay, or mass, whatever. And then really high-end guys that are in high demand are often headhunted by technical recruiters who spam. So what ends up happening at the high end, because remember, I want the best. I don't want anything. I don't want a lot. I want quality because I want the source of the DNA. I want the information that's going to drive the life and create the most synergy and beneficial result. And that was only going to be derived from exploring a diversity of branches of information and taking all these different learning lessons and bringing them back all under one roof. So there is an aspect of centralization that's absolutely necessary, but it happens in a decentralized way. That's why I always joke about and say, I'm a CIA and a DAO. I'm a CIA agent and a DAO. Like, oh no, he's from the NSA or something. No, I'm a centralized intelligent agent because I know in a decentralized system and decentralized autonomous organization, the reason that it can be decentralized is because each of the pieces of the parts has their own local system of organization where they have a reckoning system of their right around them in a way, in order of behaving with the group, right? A logic. But when we get into a culture of dysfunction where that energy is broken because there's a puppeteer up a hand using that to leverage their efficiency of action to get people to be doing things that are not necessarily in their best interest, let's say, and to reinforce control mechanism. You know, and so to me, it's not really about money these days, because if you know and follow where the money goes and who's the creditors of the world and how that all funnels up, it's sort of like a lot of these apparent corporations that are independent are sort of like intermarried and interlocked through cartels of banking and finance, is the way I look at it.
Yep.
A lot of people in the same boards and, you know, backroom, I don't know, Bilderberger kind of stuff, right?
Yep, sure looks like it gets funneled away.
Yeah. So what I don't want happening is the funneling effect. So that's why I like Dale Larimer's thing, because he's basically saying, you know, you got to show up.
Right. Do the work.
So what happened to Samara? I don't understand. She has such a hard time joining. She was talking about joining, and then she said, send her the link. I don't know if she's trying. Let me check and see.
Do you feel like you've been a success today with the happy EOS anniversary?
Oh, dude, yeah, because you know why? Um, the best part is, see, this is where you're missing it. You see, this is how you see. I'm like an occultist. Okay, I'm a magician. See, because I've reconciled science, magic, and religion, so I could say this in full faith and belief that I'm saying this with absolute purity of heart and no maliciousness, but I truly believe it. So the fact that this counter says 0 this whole time, and the fact that I might have had as many viewers as I did speakers at any given point. Like I might have had like 4 or 5 viewers at the same time, and I had almost as many speakers at the same time, right? So
Right.
you might, oh my gosh, Doug, you went to all this effort, you did all this stuff, right? What did you get out of it? Did you get paid out of it? Did you hire? Did you get viral? People, a lot of people could laugh at me, right? See, now here's the question, Jay. What's the game here? Right? What's the game? How do
Yeah.
I evaluate? Did I win or did I lose? What was the objective in doing this? Well, what I'm saying is that I look at everything that I do from a multiplicity of angles and perspectives. So there's all these different games going on, multiple games going on. Like, can I manage my sleep schedule? Can I manage my food intake? Can I keep the stream running and not be absent from it to still do all these things? Go to the bathroom, take care of my chicken, like all these different things. And although you might think like, people want viewers, what I want is the recreation of culture. Okay. I want the best ideas. So what happened here is a dynamic expression of organic chemistry of information that has the power and ability to influence culture and go viral. No one in the world saw it. No one in the world knows it exists except for a very few. And those extra few that didn't participate, it might not even absorb much of it. So now it's buried. So now we have to unbury it by repackaging it through an intelligent method of delivery systems, and not in 8-hour long videos that aren't indexed or cut up with titles and SEO optimized and blah, blah, blah. Who's going to do that, Jay? Have you thought? I've already have this all figured out. So I'm already like 10 steps ahead, and you're asking me about what I already figured out along like 2 days ago. Because remember when we had that talk, there was a certain point where I said, you know what? I don't care what happens with anyone else. It doesn't matter, because I have enough gold to offer in terms of what a large part of, I don't know if you caught this, of what I was trying to do is do what Samara wants to do, make a shift, right? So what kind of anniversary party is it? You know what happens when I say anniversary party? Mel Pierce says, don't remind me. People go, oh my gosh, it's been 4 years. They get depressed. These are Genesis account holders. No one wants to come to my anniversary party. You know how freaking stupid that is, like from a marketing perspective. How would the ENF get behind that? Doug wants to have a, you know how much fun the own community, and this is how you can do marketing. Think about it. Okay, here's Jay trying to be the cheerleader.
Let's invite Brendan Bloomer to speak.
Yeah, no, exactly. Let's call it Brock Pierce too. Let me ask about the fucking Richter and the whole thing with the early video streaming thing, the child pedo shit. And what about that Epstein thing? And what do you know about Maria Farber? And I know you like to party. Do you do coke? It's like, I mean, where would it end? It's like, but see, we can do that for name recognition and buzz and sensationalism, but that's not what I'm after. You know what I'm saying? I'm out. So to me, it's like, what value do they contribute me just because they have a name? No, see, I'm looking for the real value, Jay. I'm looking for the real gold. And our culture has got everyone's heads all mushy and tainted with doing it the same way. So it's like, I sort of laughed when I'm trying to do this and everybody is trying to get me to do things that everyone's already been doing the same things. Right, and I'm like, what kind of boss throws a party, an anniversary party, and invites all their employees to come, and then they do the same thing what they do when they're at work?
Right.
The same thing they do all the time. You just put one more time, but I'm not going to give you any notice to prepare for it. And I know you probably already got things going on in your life, but I'm just going to get you to just do this all of a sudden because you think it's a good idea. You know how absurd that is to me, And so to get a community to behind something, it's just like your Bible. It's like, don't push for it too quickly. You have to get the buy-in from the grassroots level to what they like your idea, and then You just sowed the seed and you let it grow at the right pace to let you grow this. You water it. You don't pull on the plant, right? So we
Right,
need
right.
to grow through that organic process.
Absolutely. So I sat through when I wasn't watching and participating in the chat on our celebration of June 1. I was also I participated in the Zoom call with Joshua and
Oh, the
there's
Eden creators.
yeah, and so Dan
Cool. How was that?
Singjoy, it was great, and so so we've got and James Mart was there, and Dan Singjoy presented it, and the whole group they came up with an action list, and we're going to do it again. It looks like the time slot's going to be the same. I think it's 1300 UTC, which is like for me, I'm in Pacific Standard Time, so that's 6 a.m. Yeah, 6 a.m. On Wednesdays, and it's going to be, and what they're going to do. Chuck McDonald was there, and he says, there's a little bit of a pushback sometimes now between Eden and Fractally because people are not all on the same page yet, if ever, and so there's a little. It's just a need to be sensitive to what's going on there, but that doesn't mean that it's not a beautiful matchup between using the fractally process to have breakout rooms. If we get 10 or 12 people every Wednesday, we can
Hey, I
talk
need to
about.
let my chicken in. It's getting dark here, and she's trying to get in the house. I
Okay.
gotta let her in. She sleeps inside. I'll be right back.
All right.
Winona, where are you?
Let me see.
Hey, isn't that funny, Jay? You ever heard someone say that before? I gotta let my chicken in.
Is she egg laying? Does she feed you?
She used to. She hasn't been lately. I don't know why.
Yeah.
She might be just getting a stage.
So one of the topics that came up is Chuck McDonald said, I can. He's good at generating NFTs, and there's non-fungible tokens, and then there's NTTs, non-transferable tokens. And it's kind of funny because you were saying like a primary or secondary password or email address, or that you could actually issue those two types of tokens. One could just be like a badge like a merit badge, where you have now you attended this meeting, and then it may be having that non-transferable token as a badge that is
Hey,
dated.
badge it. Can we post badges? Can you set that up? Make a
For
badge for all the people that spoke. Me, you, Samara, Douglas, Patrick, Eric.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Of course we can.
So it's just a commemorative thing, you know what I'm saying? And
I was going to say right now, Chuck is a way better. It would take me a long time to put together a custom NFT or an NTT, but he's good at it. And so, but that's my point, is that one of the things that I learned today is, and you immediately caught on. It's like, whoa, there's having a badge that you can put in your calendar book is like, I earned these merits, and they're permanent tokens, and it shows what I did, what I accomplished, and what it was for.
And then listen, Jay. When we publish the media, like when we take these clips out, even in the long form 8-hour one, or in the shortened condensed versions, there's some way we either embed the badge in the video or attach it to it, so that those assets are represented by that badge.
How about this? On our coursework, you download the PDF. No, you just log into you can download the PDF for the course material, and then you can log in, enter your form answers. We record your answers to the form, and if you got 50% or more correct, we send you your merit badge. If you want to try and learn something, if you engage
Well,
with
no. Actually, you're honest. You're absolutely onto something there. But that's going to be related to my university. Is what I want to do with that.
right,
Like the educational system. That did I ever tell you my standard of teaching and my pedagogy? Want to hear it? It's very simple.
yeah, I want to hear it.
Okay, so everyone is a student teacher. Number one. Okay, so everyone's a student teacher. That means everyone has something to learn and everyone has something to teach. In learning, not all things are the same, right? You can learn about chickens or dogs. You can learn about computers, blockchain. There's different topics and different things of which you do develop knowledge or hold on. That you acquire information about. And so information processing is all about input, action, output. So there's some sort of input, and if you get the right output, that's really the function of the program is what you're talking about there. So in teaching, it's this simple. Everyone's a student teacher. Everyone starts from where they're at. Some people are at higher degrees of mastery than others. Some people are lower. But even though I'm hiring you one area, you might be hiring me in another area. Do you get what I'm saying? There's a dynamic to this where even the highest level teachers, the most skilled teachers, are always the best students because they never stop learning. They never say, oh, I know everything. I know it all. Let me tell you how it is. They're at the point where they're like, even as what I do know, I'm expecting there's more to learn. And I'm looking for that information and I'm open for it in the new way and the next way and the other way and all this stuff. So that's how all the great masters have been is what I was taught. And so in my form of teaching, it works like this. If I have competency and claim that I have competency over something, then I should be able to demonstrate that competency by telling you it, showing it to you, and then you being able to reproduce that competency in somebody else. Okay. And so
Right.
say, for example, I'm going to teach you how to build a WordPress website. So I first state, Jay, this is what I'm going to teach you. This is what I'm claiming that I have competency in doing. So I have to clearly define what is that scope. Because in building a WordPress website, it's broken up of thousands of little things. Of some things I might have greater or lesser competency. No two WordPress developers are the same, Right. And so that's a general vague thing. I want to get super specific, right? And so, but I also want to be simple. Okay, so how do I accomplish both? Simple like this. So when I teach you something, whatever we call it, how we define it, however specifically get into it, at the end of the day, you should be able to, number one, teach me back what I taught you to my satisfaction and to your own satisfaction. Okay. And number two, teach someone else to their satisfaction as well as the person who's teaching the lesson satisfaction. And then that person, if they're a good student, needs to do the same. And if that second person does it, then the student you're interfacing with graduates. But if, say, I try to teach someone, and in order for him to graduate his class, he doesn't just have to impress me. He's got to go impress one of his friends. So he's got to say, Doug said, in order to be a master at this, I now have learned how to build a WordPress website. So I need to teach you how to build a WordPress website. And until you, as my student, learn how to build a WordPress website to my satisfaction and yours, I'm not a master. I'm not a teacher yet.
Excalibur.
So embedded in that is a fractal reproductive cycle. Embedded into the mastery of a teacher, you have to reproduce yourself.
Okay, look up this.
That's my pedagogy. Do you like that?
So Doug, I don't just like your philosophy of teaching. I love it. In fact, like thinking 10 steps ahead of you. Not only do I like it, I think we should implement it. I think it's perfect. It's beautiful. It's actually
it's mathematical. It's mathematical.
Right. And it's just like a variation of the Socratic method. It's like we have to work through everyone's a teacher, everyone's a student.
Hey, by the way, I don't know if you caught it in the stream, but did you see anything earlier about a dialogos?
Yeah, I did. I saw that.
Okay, so do you know what that is? I see this is the spirit of God speaking to me through my multiversal mathematical science, magic, religion, integrated language, right?
Right.
And so dialogos, see, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God, and the word became flesh. That word is logos. Okay. What does the word logos mean? It also can be translated like reason or logic. Okay. The breath of life, right? So when God, the breath of life, speaks, okay, there's always a recipient to whom is spoken to. There's an object, right? There, you need two to tango. It is in that dialogue between the small s self and the big S self, the creation and the creator, the man and the God. That dialogue, that authentic dialogue, is the dialogos. And that same dialogue happens between two people when we are acting in first principle accord with our, we have a natural conversation that results in a real divine growth. See, I am mathematically going to give away to define divinity and like, hey, let's metricize this. You get what I'm saying? Just like you
Yeah.
said, like what happens if we do this? With all sorts of iterations of beliefs and practices, everything's open. But you know what? It actually may all be the same thing, and I see it in the Bible. Because
Well,
you know why?
I
It's
love
in the
that you
Bible.
just said that.
Yeah. For there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor
Right.
free man or slave, but Christ in all in all. That
Okay.
means all ways and every way is now, and that's sort of like that resolves a mystery between the King Nebuchadnezzar and Jesus as the Lord of Lords and King of Kings.
Absolutely. And one observation is that, why is it that we don't do things more, do what Jesus did and say what he said? And one of the things that you could break it down into three categories of words. Number one would be proclamation, where you proclaim the good news, you announce the good news,
I like it. Right.
you state it. And then
All
number
right.
two would be, how about manifestation? And that's when you
I
go,
like it.
wait, what about shamans? What about First Nation and Native American? What about magic? And what about, so imagine trying to compete on manifestation. And that's one of the fun things about the Bible. There's that it talks about like, who do you know that can actually raise something from the dead or give something new life? And it's like, if the power of the Holy,
all this stuff we're talking about, I want to gamify it. I want to take this process of learning and sharing of culture and rewards and turn it into a game.
Yeah.
See, that's what my ultimate vision is. And I only came up with that like 2 days ago in consulting my friend using the analogy of pool as a metaphor for the game of life. And as we dug into that narrative and we looked at what makes, because we're competitive pool players, and like one of the things we realized was the same lessons that we learned at Fractally. If you don't show up to the table, when you're playing pool,
right. Yeah, and you have to keep practicing.
Fractally, you can't earn respect.
And you have to keep practicing like hours a day. Okay.
No. But it all starts from showing up. Because see, Dave, we're at that skill level. If we show up to the table and we're playing, we don't want to lose. You get what I'm saying? We naturally get motivated, but we don't show up. That's a whole different thing.
All right. The third word, first word, proclamation. Second word, manifestation. The third word is teaching, which is what you were just talking about. And then, the source of the material is apparently, according to Doug, it's Jesus on the blockchain. But I digress.
Well, no, I'm not saying the source is Jesus on the blockchain. What I'm saying is the source is never. Okay, if you really want to get into my language, there's everything. But when it comes to the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings, that being an entity has a new name now, of which I cannot utter, but the best representation I can use to communicate that is Nevri King. Because Nevri King is no different than Nevri Thing. The only difference between Nevri Thing and Nevri King is when you look at Nevri Thing, which is the sum totality of nothing and everything, from the perspective of hierarchies of domains, of orders, of infolded, internested, higher and lower, a structure, a meta structure. There's one thing that encompasses it all. There is only one thing that is all. Do you get what I'm saying? Like if I say I am the God of all domains except those universes over there, or those dimensions over there, or that's region space over there. No, that means that the person at the very top of the totem pole, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, is ultimately the one who is above all the other domains. There's subsets.
That's so beautiful.
Let
me try and
re-articulate. The way you arrive at that is through language. You have to correct the language, and that's what I've done.
Doug, check this out. I affirm what you just said, and here's like a beautiful way of re-articulating it with some language that adds some soul. Imagine this: like, let's say you're watching a pool game, and you pick your. Let's say Doug is so great, we just want him to be the champion of pool, and then we align ourselves as we're part of the Doug fan club. And if he wins, he's the champion. And he's splitting the pot of gold with all the fan club or whatever. And so then I'm painting a picture of a metaphor of what does it mean to be a champion? Well, usually if you think about what a champion is, he's representative of he's the champion of the group. So if two warriors are doing battle, you want your champion to be the winner because then your whole team wins. So the champion can be the take on representation for the entire group. And then one of the words that I was also thinking that I thought you were going to say, hey Jay, not only is it like above the highest height of the hierarchy, but imagine that that champion is also a friend of Doug, and Doug is a friend of the king. That not only is he champion, but he's also personal friend, a friend who shows up and knows you. And so it's, and I think the best way to is to describe it would be, imagine having a personal relationship with this champion figure that we're describing as higher than the highest height.
It's the multiversal hero. The multiversal hero. It's a hero with 1,000 faces.
Yeah.
It's Christ, but Christ expresses himself in every kind of iterative fractal of representation based on the sort of regional, I don't know. And so this is my notion, Jay. This is my dream. This is what Witchwalker Woo and Witchwalker World is all about. Because I've created, when you get into the language and you get into the story, there's a whole narrative that explains the way that I arrived at where I did, but also what I need at this real very moment to move to the next level, which is the participation of the whole.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? It's sort of like, so it's almost like, in a very weird way, I feel very privileged because I've done my best to align myself with like the mind and heart and soul of not only the people and the planet, but the best information and the best thinking.
I love your
integrating
Doug,
it.
Doug, I love your teaching philosophy, and I also love your the scope of your philosophical worldview, as you just said it. And I think that's it makes it fun for me, to have the opportunity to be working with you, because I really can see a clear alignment. I mean, it makes it fun to have a worldview, and a cosmic view, spiritual views that are aligned. It just makes life more fun doing it together.
Into the Bible sometime, man, I would love to talk to you about the Bible. There's so many things in the Bible that I've seen that I'd like to share with you, are so important, and it really will ultimately lead to my establishing the Great White Throne.
Yeah.
I mean, in fiction, you could choose to believe it. See, that's part of my fantasy fiction blog, is you have to decide whether it's true or not yourself. Because a lot of times what I've done is I've suspended judgment. I don't even know. I'm that open-minded. But I look at things and I put it on. I don't just examine it from the outside, like what if. I enter into the worldview and try to convince myself this this world is true. So I'm truly traveling into alternate dimensions in a sense. Like,
I think at the same time, when you said that, like the Google algorithms, for example, are really evolving concerning, interesting combinations of words and their search, and a lot of it's artificial intelligence and machine learning, but to be able to pinpoint and connect up search results based upon however their current programming and algorithms are interacting with live stream and photos and words and
oh yeah, dude,
location.
I could do. There's so much, like, there's so much stuff with that like I've been coming up with like strategies to, because I was trying to explain, and I got into this a little, I don't know when. I was probably just talking to myself on the live stream that
Right.
Stefan, I think, said at the fireside chat, was it? He said that like SEO has changed a lot recently in the last few years, and it's mainly just a matter of like backlinks or inbound links. And I'm just like, yeah, nah, not really. And I'm all like, SEO is way more than that, and it's just even inbound links. Like any inbound link, where is that inbound link? What domain is it coming off of? Is it coming off of a scam site or blacklisted IP? Is it coming from like, Yahoo or
Okay,
like
so
Reddit or something? And so it's sort of like I've dealt with what I've come to the experience with SEO is you really don't know till you do it, and everything's different and it's always changing, and it's like this constant game. But once you get into it, it's like you really have to get into it and play it like a game. And if you just do things and you don't really know what your results, like what you did, what results it actually got you, because you don't pay attention, which is probably what's going on. I don't know. Like you really want to know, like you have to benchmark things very meticulously. And when you're dealing with as big as an ecosystem as EOS, there's too much data really to do an effective job to deal with all the kinds of different kinds of keyword phrases you really want to be optimized for.
Right. So a smart plan would be, there's probably no way to be firing on all cylinders, but to the extent you're capable of figuring out what that means, how to fire on all cylinders, including like making like YouTube shorts and little clips. And it's like,
but you know what I think is the better thing to do is just the simplest thing to do, Jay. And this is what I really want to talk to you about, is just starting a search engine. Start a decentralized, curated, highest value, all the stuff that's being censored search engine, to where you don't even need 80% of the garbage out there because you don't want it anyways. And so you don't have to spend a tremendous amount of time mining, for data for this esoteric shit, because people are just handing it to you because they can't get it up anywhere else because they've been deplatformed. And so it's.
Do you remember? Do you? I'm not changing the subject.
Sure.
I'm agreeing with you. Do you remember this morning? It's like you even pulled it up on the full screen. You go, why did Jay send me this? I don't know. It's an abstract. It says goggles on it. Like, what's this abstract all about? Because this morning you touched upon search results. And I talked to you about it once before, where the Brendan Eich, who not only did he write JavaScript, the language, but he also started up he worked with Netscape, and then they spun off into Mozilla, and the Netscape browser became, Firefox, and now he's doing the Brave browser. And
that was the one, the search engine. That's right. Was that the Akka thing though? That wasn't the Akka. Remember that Microsoft developed? No, that was for the shopping stuff. Never mind.
Right. So what I'm saying is that Brendan Eich's new browser, the Brave browser, part of starting up their company, they incorporated a search tools, because I think it was like they bought a smaller search company and integrated into the Brave browser, and they've published an abstract called goggles. It's kind of funny because the word looks so much like Google, but it's not. It's the word goggles. And so if you think about putting search goggles on, you can find things better. And with part of it is it's just a spreadsheet template that can be what is it? JSON. Use a JSON schema. So have you ever heard of you can imagine what a schema is, a schema of JSON, and then you search a JSON schema, and you have keywords in there, but you can have all kinds of links. You can have text boxes or whatever else. But the point is imagine having a search engine where the persons who are trying to work on their own SEO simply generate a web, call it JSON. Instead of an XML schema, it's a JSON schema of all of the components of what the algorithm reads to generate a search result. So anyway, that I sent you the abstract of the goggles. It's it's like a white paper. It's just a summary of what they're implementing on the browser.
All right, I'm down. I like it. You introduced me to so much cool shit, Jay. I so appreciate that. How do you learn about this stuff, anyways?
Same as you. You know more than I do, and I'm just an amateur compared to Doug.
Well, no, I mean, but you lead me on to all this. Like, I didn't know about. I guess it's just because I'm not in the ecosystem. Like Stan Larimer's Sky Sovereign and BEOS and like Handshake and Ethereum. Like, I just haven't been paying attention to all that stuff.
Maybe I'm on the spectrum and just call it a splinter skill.
Right. Whatever. I'm trying to find
there's no good answer. It's like, how did she learn some of this stuff? It's like, I don't know.
So I don't know whatever happened to Samara. That's sort of odd. Do you think we should bug her?
Well, we can let her live her life, and when she texts us or tries to say, hey, I'm trying to get in.
I just don't understand why she said she was trying to get in earlier.
Oh, speaking of going on or off, I may have to have logged my hours 2.5 hours. So that's a chunk, but you get credit for all 24. Oh, I didn't even bring up. Oh, here's the $64 billion open source contribution, Excalidraw. Okay, so there's a guy whose name is Thomas Steiner. He's a Googler, and he's one of the coolest guys out there on the internet. And Google recognized that, and so they go, "Hey, Tom, why don't you help us with open sourcing some really cool stuff that you find?" And he just came across an artist who did a graphical interface drawing tool. He put it up on GitHub, open sourced it. There's so many brilliant and genius programmers out there. Like within a day, they got 5 and then 8 and then 13. I don't know the what's after 18. What do they call that? What do we use fractally? It grew virally, and they perfected this tool called Excalidraw. And what it is, it's a web tool that you can integrate into any application at any time, anywhere, for any purpose. And it's a little drawing tool. So and then you can download the resulting file and share it with other people. You can have people log in and draw with you, and they've added all kinds of tooling. And I haven't even looked at it for 6 months, so it's probably far more advanced right now. But at this point, Doug, you're supposed to say, Jay, what are you talking about? Think of the practical application if we wanted to use the Dr. Wu philosophy of teaching, and with your university educational programming kits. If we wanted to give out, let's say there's a 4-year-old kid at home that likes dinosaurs, and you find the Wits Up educational arm at W University, and it's like for kids, 3, 4, and 5 years old, and then we just load these dinosaurs. They could be just like maybe connect the dots, and and then we use the Excalidraw web-based drawing tool, and they get to color in the dinosaur, write up, try and copy the lettering of the name.
What's up, Lee? Hey, Leaf,
Yeah.
meet Jay. Jay, meet Leaf.
Hey,
This is
Leaf.
the guy that I'm working with on Boomerang. Oh, yeah. Did I tell you I work for him?
Yes. I,
This is
I
Jay. This,
didn't-
this
by
is
the
my
way,
attorney.
By the way, Leaf, when Doug told me the name Boomerang, I thought, gosh, that is so much fun. I just love the idea of boomerangs. I think the concept is so powerful, and I think it's a wonderful name for a brand.
Yeah. Can you hear me yet? I'm just double checking.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, fine. Because I was driving. Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, we've expanded it to Boomerang Earth because we had Earth as a extension, kind of like .com, obviously. So Boomerang Earth is, I think, is also a strong brand because I'm sure somewhere, someone is using Boomerang extensively. It's a fairly common name. I think Boomerang Earth, but we can also have Boomerang, by itself also. Let me just pull over here and I'll get this beeping taken off. But yeah, I like the fact that it has, it has the connotations. It's kind of fun sounding, but it has its history. Obviously, the Aboriginals,
Right.
and then it has that concept of things that return. Things that are returning for good
Yep.
or bad. So yeah, I think Douglas might have told you we got a little pitch we're doing. It's like a I'm gonna say it's like a WeWork or something like that. It's a little tech hub in Melbourne, and it's called Silicon Beach. And it's the little startup tech hub there. So that should be fun. Australia's 14 hours ahead of us. So for Douglas and I, we did it the other night. I think Douglas is still recuperating.
Dude, I've been running this stream for almost 18 hours, or what is it now? I don't even know. No, not that long. 14 hours?
Wow.
Wow.
Well, I went back to bed, actually. I let it run overnight. I just queued it up.
That's cool. Yeah.
What time are you gonna shut it down? How many more hours are you gonna stay on before you just run videos?
I don't know. It just all depends on the demand of interest. Like if people show up, I'll stay with them. But if no one comes, then I'll probably just bail. Like I can just break. I don't mind either way.
Yeah.
I'd cut it off at midnight. That makes the full day of it, and just hail it as a great success.
Oh, I know, no. But of course. But what I'm saying is that I might just let it go on autopilot. At any point, like as soon as we get done with this. Because if more people come and want to talk, like I could still probably go hassle Michael of EOS USA or Aaron Cox or someone or Chuck McDonald. I could probably get him on, like one of them, like if I really wanted to. But I'm like, I don't really feel like I need to at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Leaf, I think you're a very impressive person who can brand things well. I also love the name Silicon Beach. I think that's just a perfect name.
Yeah, they're doing a good job there. I mean, the whole thing. I apologize. I was driving right when I was introduced you. Tell me your name again.
Jay Taylor.
Oh, Jay. Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah, I touched base with you one time when we were on the Fractally thing. You said something that was kind of patriotic, and I was like, yeah, man. Yeah, I hit you up. Tried to give you a little DM, but yeah. Yeah, that's why I met Douglas there in the Fractally thing. He's got this energy. I was telling him, all projects require new energy, and it's just the way it is. When you get a project that starts, taking years of time, I mean, burnout is just a very real thing. And everybody wants everything to happen fast, and a lot of people got wrecked because,
it's like this, Jay. So what it looks like to me is like, remember where you're using the analogy of playing games like I'm a competitive pool player. Well, it's like I know some stuff about SEO. I know some stuff about computers. I know some stuff about life. And so it's sort of like when it comes to things that I feel like I'm competent in, I get sort of competitive like that. So business can be like that for me too. So when I come into this ecosystem, it's like, look at me. I'm missing a tooth. I don't have a website. I have no real demonstratable way where anyone can figure out who this guy really is. Like my LinkedIn page, I don't have access to right now, and so there's a lot of kind of ground level trust of like revealing who Doug Wu is over a long period of time of just like battling around in these Telegram groups, just like doing anything from being an adult to being a kid to whatever. But I'm always saying what I really think, or what I'm not like letting anyone, prevent
Right.
me from
No,
expressing myself, in my opinion.
I think that's no, I've just been it's that character quality of authenticity is so powerful and it's rare. And I think I'm old enough now where I can start to call it like I see it. It very often ends up winning the day. If you're willing to work hard and be honest and straightforward and an authentic person, then you're going to be a person who gets the job done. I mean, it sure does help when you have very intelligent and have a skill set to go along with it. But those are good qualities.
Yeah, I agree. There's, in my experience, there's different, levels. You've got your entry level, your noobs. You've got some of your seasoned. You have your kind of what I would call middle managers. That sounds a little, disparaging, but be that as it may. But then you have your executives. Then you got your super executives. They've already made their millions of dollars, like David Drake and a lot of these people I met from Dubai and Malta and stuff like that. Those kind of people, they just like real people. They hate fake. I'll tell you that right off the bat, man.
Yeah.
When you get that upper echelon, they've seen so many pitches and so many fakers and so many people kissing their ass and stuff like that. They just like real people. Somebody who can make them laugh. They love the story of the bare knuckles.
You know what I was thinking? That thing coming up in Singapore. If there's some way you can get one of these crypto conventions along with a pool, like I could probably get like one of these, some of the top pool players to come to like go to a pool hall where these rich guys can hang out with like these top pool players and get some gambling, get some handicaps going on. There's used to be this guy named, he was a professional poker player, and David Pete was his name. And he was sort of a go-off, what you call in pool, where he would bet Scott Frost like millions of or hundreds of thousands of dollars on these games of pool, where Scott was giving them outrageous handicaps. Like he had to beat him 15-3 or something like that. And so what ended up happening is Scott Frost became the biggest money winner player in the history of pool because he caught a big fish that when that David Pete guy lost that much money to him, it was a drop in the bucket. Not even a drop in a pan, you know what I'm saying? It didn't really cost him that much. But there's that kind of thing to where, you were talking about there's people that like to play pool, or whatever. There is that kind of cult thing to where I have enough skill set in my own. If there's anyone that thinks there's a good pool player, like in the crypto industry, however much money they have or they don't have, it's like I pretty much feel like I got them beat. So like you get me to a conference and there's some aspect of it where everyone's going to go play pool and it gets all the pool players going out there. I would love to get in that mix. Yeah. I love to play.
You sound just a little bit tired there.
Yeah, I am. I need to get more water. The problem is, Leaf, is I don't get enough time to get away from this booth. And so I can't get enough water and like food or go to the bathroom or whatever. So it's been pretty continuous, honestly.
Yeah, we all got to take care of ourselves. I mean, it's going to be a long race, you know what I mean? And that's, if you followed the whole EOS thing, it sounds like you have, Jay, it's a long grinding. there is no fast thing. But you know what? Yeah. There is kind of like intermittent times, where you do have to move quick. I actually feel, I always use the analogy, it's like surfing. And if you actually know about surfing, the biggest part of surfing is actually waiting. It's always waiting. You're waiting for those sets to come in. So most of the time you're waiting. But then all of a sudden when they start coming in, you got to be ready to move and you have to have momentum. And then it's a bit, then there's a whole other, set of things you want to catch the right wave. And then can you stay on it, So all those are somewhat analogous to this crypto space. There's a lot of waiting, but all of a sudden when it starts popping, everybody starts moving quick. You got to move, and the opportunity, because then the wave drops. We just see we saw this last wave just dropped. You know, it's like boom. But that was
And
actually a pretty good wave. A lot of people were just making money the last, we'll say, 6 months. That was a pretty good run there for a while.
well, you know what's interesting? I started watching some of Michael EOS USA's channel, and there was one at the beginning of Dan from 4 years ago, and it was. Do you want to watch some of it with me? Just a few minutes of it.
I've only got a few minutes. I just pulled off to chat real quick. Here's
interesting.
I just came up with a real good idea, and you might like this one too, Jay. If you
Jay left. He had to go.
Okay. The idea is we start the game. We start creating some avatars, and we actually become, like playing the game ourselves. For example, like Susan can be like the Oracle, like in the Matrix, where she knows everything about the culture, and she just disappears behind that character. Same with you, you just create a character, take,
exactly. See, now you're thinking like what I want to do. Gamify life. So the narrative is, it's like the meta game. It's like we're gamifying we're making the game about us making the game, because that's the game.
Yeah, Jay seems like a cool guy there. So he's a good one to have in the mix there.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a pretty cool little application here. What's it called again? Broadstream?
It's called StreamYard. Yeah, I pay $25 a month for the licensing of the use. I just started using it because Douglas Butner turned me on to it. I was asking around. It's cloud hosted, so it takes a little bit of the demand off my computer. Right.
That's cool. And because we can also, I want to a couple of things. One, I'll tell you one thing. I'd love to get a interview going, me, you, and Michael. Because he knows me, and just really lay down some ideas, and just kind of without milking him too much, see what his view of the terrain is. I mean, he knows everything. He's the top dude, in my opinion. So,
yeah, you said that before.
Yeah, I mean, he really is. I've seen him on calls and just sat there and listened to him, like developer calls, where the shit's just way, way beyond my scope. But man, he's got it down, and then also Crypto Dunker, and we can redo that thing with Susan. This is a much cleaner format. We can do it, and just for documentation purposes too. But so anyway, blah blah blah. So yeah, that was the message. Let's create avatars for the game, and just let your mind go on that, and we'll come up with something for Susan. Maybe you can help create hers or whatever, and we can kind of do them side by side, and that would give us some little bit of motivation. So anyway, we are 4 or 5, 6 hours away from you. So at some point you want to get some rest.
Yeah. Hey, so can you hear Dan's voice right now?
No.
Hold on. Let me just see if I can you hear that? No. Okay. Then I have to change the settings. So I'm just let it play videos now. I'm going to go take a break.
Okay, cool.
U.S. government.
Yeah, I heard it. There it is. I can hear it now.
Changes were a vulnerability space, and that there was a very real possibility that the governments could shut down the exchanges, and then that cuts off the flow of money in and out of crypto. Decentralized exchange with the primary feature being pegged assets that could be track the value of gold, silver, dollars, yen, and then it can be used to trade against the cryptocurrency. So those who need price stability would have it. In the process of building a decentralized exchange, I realized blockchain technology just wasn't up to the task. Bitcoin 10-minute blocks is way too long for trades. The potential for blockchain reorganizations, the usability around account names and permissions, even the fee structure and performance. So all those things had to be addressed. So over the course of 2 years, 2013, 14, and I guess 15, I created and launched BitShares 1 and BitShares 2. And the usability around account names and permissions, even the fee structure and performance. So all those things had to be addressed. So over the course of 2 years, 2013, 14, and I guess 15, I created and launched BitShares 1 and BitShares 2. And BitShares was the first blockchain to achieve tens of thousands of transactions per second on a live blockchain, just nodes distributed around the world. So what I've been doing for the past several years is really pushing the envelope of performance toward real world use cases. BitShares is also one of the first blockchains to have named accounts and built-in governance for self-funding of new proposals funded by the blockchain. People are actually directly hired by the blockchain to do work. And that allows us to repurpose all the money that's been wasted on mining and toward actually doing work that then adds value back to the underlying token. But BitShares still had the trouble of mass adoption. Most people, it's a really hard sell to convince them to take their money and put it on this risky blockchain platform. It still suffered from the problem of transaction fees. You have a decentralized exchange that charges you every time you create or cancel an order, even if it's not filled. And that was a roadblock to adoption. So after I was working on BitShares for a while, we started to run out of money to fund development, and we were in the blockchain recession. So I had to come up with a plan to onboard users to get viral marketing and discovery. And that's when I came up with the idea of a social media platform on a blockchain, a platform that would reward users for producing content, and then the content would drive organic search results to Google. At onboard users wouldn't have to put any money into the system. It was the first blockchain that realized that you can contribute work and labor in addition to money. They're all forms of capital that add value to the underlying token. So Steam was an exercise in massively decentralized budget allocation. We wanted the ability to have the masses allocate the block rewards, the billions of dollars that currently go to Bitcoin and Ethereum miners, to allocate those among content producers in a very decentralized way. We wanted thousands and thousands of people every single day to get rewards. And that meant decentralizing the budgeting, because under BitShares, all worker proposals had to be voted on and get everyone to agree on. And it was a process that was very difficult, very political, and people just couldn't process that. So we had to move the decision-making authority down to a much lower level so that individuals with an upvote can allocate some of the public money. And so that's been very successful. Steam has become, I believe, one of the top 2,000 websites globally in less than a year. And
we had a little bit of a problem this morning. I don't know
blockchain.
If anyone is out there.
It's actually taught me
about
blockchain architecture. So after building
I'm trying to run
and BitShares, one of the things I realized, they have a lot of things in common, and a lot of other applications could benefit from having the same account systems, account recovery, and certainly the performance that we've seen with these two blockchains. Steam and BitShares are both industry-leading performance. They've got by transaction volume more than 50% market share in the cryptocurrency space. So they're the heavyweights in actual blockchain usage. With respect to Steam, we had to make it so that every transaction was free, because people don't want to pay to upvote. They don't want to pay to post or comment. So that was the other major innovation with Steam. The community of people out there likes things the way they are. So just like Bitcoin forked into Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum into Ethereum Classic, if you want to do major changes or architecture changes to the rules, like Steam took some risks with massive budgeting and inflation, that the BitShares community was based on deflationary model and didn't like it the few times. I tried to change BitShares to add the limited inflation to fund ongoing development. So there's this, once you have a community and critical mass, these things have a life of their own. People have an interest in the way things are, and there's a resistance to change. So the time to move on to a new blockchain is when you've learned enough that you can't move the community along with you. And people want things to work the way they are. And so you create something new and you allow a new community to form, and then the market will reach consensus. And anyone who wants to can sell the old token and buy the new token.